Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Shute. I'm the host of the Yen Podcast. And in this episode, I sit down and talk with Molly Lucas. She's the owner of Maison de Molly, and she's an interior designer. We talk a lot about her entrepreneurship journey in the creative field. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. All right, guys, welcome back to the Yen Podcast. This will be releasing in a couple weeks from now, but this is the first one we're filming in 2025. So excited to be back at it. Today, I'm with Molly Lucas with Maison de Molly. Right? Is that a good way to say it?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Perfect. So, Molly, thank you for coming here today. There was a snowstorm. I'll put quotes around it because they were hyping it up, but we ended up getting like an inch. Yeah. But thanks for coming out anyway. I appreciate you being here. And so why don't we just kick it off with you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I wasn't originally from Pittsburgh. So I grew up about 2 hours north in a very small town. Came to Pittsburgh for school, went to Chatham University, and kind of dove into interior architecture as my profession and started my own business in interior design this past February of 2024. Yeah, so it's 2025 now.
Nice. I know it's weird to say.
Yeah, I wrote the date wrong the other day, and I was like, wait, no, it's 2025.
I'll probably be doing that for the next month. Well, that's pretty awesome. So why don't you dive in a little bit about how, when did you fall in love with interior design?
Yeah, so growing up, I think a lot of interior designers, when they come to that state, they realize they rearrange their rooms as they were growing up. And so in high school, I was always repainting. My mom instilled in me, she's like, you can do it. You'll move everything around. You have to paint. I'll buy the paint, but you're the laborer. Like, you have to do it yourself, which was great because I had a lot of freedom there. And she was always my biggest supporter. And so always rearranged my room. I didn't realize that interior design was a true profession. Obviously HGTV and the way they portrayed it, a lot of people think it's just picking pillows and doing paint colors, and there's so much more to it than that. And so once I started actually doing some research, I realized that there are a lot of accredited programs out there that you can go and be involved in. And so that's what led me to Pittsburgh specifically, close to home, day trip. I didn't want to be too far from my parents, but wanted kind of like the bigger city feel. So Pittsburgh was perfect for that. And so that was really when I decided I loved interior design, was in high school, and then kind of dove into that passion more in college. And then obviously my first job out of school as well.
Nice. So that's what's your degree?
Interior architecture. Yeah.
Awesome.
Bachelor's.
So you're one of the few people that got your degree and you're actually doing it.
Yes.
So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I do pride myself in being someone who generally knows exactly what I want. And so it was a 3-year program, and I was just like, I want to get this done as fast as possible and jump into the real world. And thankfully, Lord willing, that was what I was exactly able to do. So, yeah.
So I didn't tell you this prior to this, but Amanda will confirm that this is true. One of my favorite movies is Devil Wears Prada, which is weird for me to say probably. People are probably judging me hard.
Yeah.
Was it like that before you were, before you started your own thing?
Yeah, I think the industry definitely is similar to the fashion industry, right? Where, interior design is kind of a rite of passage to have that negative experience.
Yeah.
I will say I've had moments of that in my own career. And I think it's really unfortunate because the industry as a whole is such a beautiful thing, and it should be more supportive, and there should be more creatives who are willing to support one another. But women can be nasty. We know this. And so it's really just keeping your head high, doing your own thing. And design is really personal, right? Everybody has a different style. Some people love white. Some people will color everywhere. There's a lot in between on that spectrum. And so I think, Pittsburgh is a very small design community as well. And so you just really don't want to burn any bridges. Everybody knows each other, and it's really just best to do your thing, stick to it, and respect people as much as you can in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a certain point when you were working for someone else that you're just like, okay, I'm definitely just going to start my own thing? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So I never wanted to go out on my own. Funny enough. You didn't hear it here first. I've said it before. And I truly meant it. I was not lying when I said I did not want to go out on my own. But you get to the point where you're working very hard for somebody else. And there's kind of this point where you are questioning what's next. And you might ask that question, what is next? And, at one point I was told I wasn't in the position to be asking what was next, which was very hard to hear at the time because it's kind of, you get to the point where you feel like you've given everything, you've done everything that you could. And I realized, going home, I couldn't be a great wife. I couldn't be a great friend. I couldn't be a great daughter. I was so burnt out and so stressed. And it was just affecting a lot of areas of my life. And what ended up happening was my husband had kind of a near-death accident, which kind of turned everything on its head. And him and I sat down and were like, what is truly important in life? And that's when we realized that, life is too short to not be happy. And he was the biggest advocate for saying, you can do it on your own. You can do it yourself. So,
well, it's super important that you had someone like, especially your husband, that was backing you up saying, hey, go for it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I could have done it without his support. And of course it's the support of many people, but he by and large is the one who was like, you need to do this. And I agree now.
Yeah. I've never even met him, but I can attest that he definitely supports you, because the reason why you're here is literally because I put a post out on Threads and he was the one that reached out for you.
Yep.
So kudos to you. What's his name again?
Tyler.
Tyler.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Tyler. So shout out to Tyler.
Yeah. No, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. I believe it. So would you be willing to share a little bit more about what happened with his story?
Yeah. So we were just hanging out one afternoon on our deck, and he ended up falling off the deck face first, about 15 feet into like our gravel fire pit below. So was in the ICU for a couple days, like teeth were broken, compressed vertebrae. Thankfully, he did not break his back or anything like that, but both wrists were broken from like the impact. And yeah, so clearly a plethora of issues. And basically he realized after that, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I mean, he's a software engineer, so like he was still doing that. He's still doing that now, but realized, family is important. I'm important. Obviously he's important to me. And we realized, we are coming up on 5 years of marriage, and it's like we're in life together. We're doing this together. And so for him to kind of have that like wake up call, I suppose, was really influential, because basically now we're stronger than we've ever been. We communicate better, and that has only helped us and helped him support me in this business, because he also helps me a lot.
Yeah.
He edits my videos. He double checks bookkeeping for me. He is very much so by my side in the business as much as he is in my personal life and in our relationship as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would imagine definitely something like that would definitely give you perspective just on life as a whole.
No, it does, because it all flashes before your eyes, and you're like, my life could look completely different right now. And I probably would have never went out on my own, and I never would have made that jump if I had also lost him. Like it's sobering to think about that. Yeah,
that's insane. Is the goal ever to be in business together, or just more so support for each other?
I think he would love that. I think I'm more hesitant on that, just because I want him to feel like he has his own, like desires and dreams, and I want to support him in his endeavors as well. And so I think there's always room for him in my business, and I want him involved. But I also want him to feel that he has the freedom to explore what he wants to as well.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. Yeah. And it's super special that you guys get to help each other. Me and Amanda do basically everything together too. So I definitely understand that aspect of it, and just like makes everything better. I feel like knowing that they're in your corner and they're there to help. And if you mess up, or if a client is, for lack of a better term, mean to you or something like that, at least you have someone to talk to that
he
understands
gets the earful every night, Yeah.
And does he do his own thing too with software engineer?
So he works for a larger company. So he's just software engineer, and then he helps me with videography on the side.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. So to get back to you transitioning into working for someone, working for yourself, what was one of the biggest learning curves transitioning from that, being underneath someone else to being your own boss?
I think I realized there were a lot of hats that small business owners wear. But it's one thing to realize it, and it's another thing to be like stacking them up and wearing them. And so I think for me, it was just realizing I had always worked for other firms who one person was ordering, another person was billing. I was designing, and somebody else was handling the client, or like emailing and admin, and suddenly I'm doing a similar job, but it's all on me. So, I'm tracking every product that I'm purchasing. I'm billing, I'm balancing my books. It's really fun and I love it, but it's kind of realizing how many hats you can wear at the same time versus how many you need to delegate and like hand off as well. So for me, the biggest learning curve is delegating my time and realizing, for example, I love social media, but I got to the point where I needed to hire a social media manager so that I wasn't as involved in the day to day. And that has been a huge help to give me more time to design and like FaceTime with clients. So that's just one little thing that has helped really give me more time on the day to day.
Yeah, that's really good. Taking off little bite-sized pieces for yourself gives you so much more return for your time. It's crazy.
No, I mean, we've come a long way.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, used to be very stressed and very overwhelmed, and it's all good things. It's that learning curve. But yeah, my goal for 2025 is to really be a little bit more balanced with my time and kind of do scheduled blocks of time to make sure that I'm really like attacking things the way I need to. And then that means I don't have to work every weekend or every evening.
Yeah, no, I understand that for sure. Now, so what's your goal of your business? Is it to always be part of, like, I guess, say boots on the ground kind of interior designer, or is your goal to eventually build a whole team and like systems like you're talking about and more so oversee like interior designers?
It's a hard question to answer because some days I wake up and I'm like, I am ready to attack and I am ready to just like build an empire. Yeah. And then other days I realize how difficult it is to manage people. And even though that's a part of the job and I love that part too, I don't really want a group of like 50 employees because that's just like a lot. And so I think for me, as long as the core of the business stays the same, I'm happy with it to grow in whatever way it needs to, as long as it's healthy and sustainable. So, I want to help people. I want to make sure that I'm creating interiors that people are thriving in. Our environments are the biggest portion of our lives. We spend so much time at home and we spend so much time at work. So if I can be lucky enough to be invited into someone's personal space, their home, and transform that for them, then that's what the goal is. I mean, sure, making money in the process is fun and needed, but really for me, it's that transformative process.
That makes sense. So what's it like working with you as a designer?
Hopefully fun. I think it's fun. I hope it's educational, really, because there's a lot of my clients have not worked with a designer before. And that to me is very good because I want to be the first person to have a positive interaction with them in terms of representing the design community. I think interior designers get a really bad rap for being kind of divas and all over the place and just taking your money and marking everything up, which happens. I am not one of those people. So I want to be able to educate people on here's what you do for interior design. Here's how I mark products up. Here's how I'm selling them to you. And just also educate them on the process or in the process. And making their home beautiful. So taking in what they're saying. I always want it to be a reflection of my client and not me. I don't want someone to walk into somebody else's house and say, oh, this is beautiful, but it doesn't this doesn't look like your house. For me, it's all about creating that space where the client can feel proud of it and feel like it represents them while having my expertise.
That makes sense. So is there a part of your process that you get to know like the client to help like reflect their personality in the design, or what's that look like?
So we've started doing kind of like a little quiz when we get a new time or first time client where we say, what's your design style? Is it farmhouse? Is it, high rise chic? Is it, like what is it? Do you love color or just pops of color? What is your favorite color? What color do you hate? If you hate red, I probably should not show you anything that's red.
That makes sense.
So, asking some of those questions, a lot of people obviously are on social media. So they have Pinterest boards, they've got Instagram things saved, So a lot of times it's communicating with the client through inspiration images and really trying to understand what they like about that image and extracting that into their own personal space.
So this is kind of a fun question for you. So I feel like it's kind of a joke. I feel like that contractors, you go into their house and they always have like unfinished projects done. Yeah. If someone walked into your house, would they know you're an interior designer?
Yes. Yeah. I also haven't had like a stair rail for 1 year, so yeah.
Well, you gotta pass on that.
Yeah. There's a lot of projects that go unfinished, but they don't always look unfinished. So contractors, that is rough because they're usually like knocking down a wall and then it's just like studs for a couple months.
Yeah, exactly.
I think for me, it's easier because I can mask some of that in the interim of like painting a wall or hanging some pictures. But yeah, there's always a project on the horizon for sure.
So are you always changing stuff a lot? Kind of like how when you were younger?
Yes, I think at our old house, it was very much more DIY. It was only 860 square feet. So we were in like a very small curated box. And so for me, it was really important to have every square inch be intentional because it was such a small space, you know? Our newer house that we moved into is a 1970s mid-century modern. It's bigger than our old house. But I want to preserve that character. I love Frank Lloyd Wright, Falling Water, a lot of his inspiration, drawing inspiration from nature. And so this house feels a lot more serious to me. So we're not doing as many DIY projects. We're kind of waiting and saving money to actually bring in help because I don't want to screw it up. And I really want to like respect the bones of the house. So it's a balance.
Yeah. And did Tyler have designs, like any design sense before you guys met, or like when you first met, I should say?
I think it's always been in there. I just think he didn't know how to channel it.
Yeah. So you brought that out in him.
Yeah. His family is very much so both left and right brained. Like they're all engineers, but then they're all like oil painters, or they're all. I mean, it's cool. Insane. I don't understand how it works.
So he's like one of those guys that can probably do anything. So anything he sets his mind to.
He'll draw sometimes. You know, other times I'll be like, "Hey, what do you think if I move the coffee table over there?" And he's like, "Sure, I'll help you." You know, like it's very much so. I want him to feel involved in the process, just like my clients, really. Because if I just came in and took over everything, he'd feel like it's not his house, and that he doesn't have a voice in his own home, right? So you know, it's very much so. Sometimes he has ideas that I don't have. Yeah. And that's really when I'm like, whoa, who are you? Like, am I doing a good job, or are you just like really like honing in on the interior design aspect? Yeah.
That's cool. So are kind of going back to like the business side of things, are there any strategies that kind of stick out to you that have helped you balance creativity with the business side of running your company?
I think it's hard because they're so intertwined, or like intertwined. That's not a word. Intertwined for me.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you know, I don't think I can separate the business side with the creative side. Mm-hmm. Obviously bookkeeping, I suppose if you're creative with numbers, which I am not, is like a really beautiful thing for some people. But I think, you know, for me, it's just setting up like the right forms and the right apps, and understanding like, as a small business owner, what do you spend your money on to help you with your time? So like QuickBooks, right? Do I love the interface? No. Does it do everything I need it to do? Yes. So I use QuickBooks for all of that stuff. So it's a balance between understanding what I can do versus what I need to hand off and trust like the professionals who are creating software, basically. I guess that's my best answer.
No, yeah, that's a great answer. And then when you first like started out with your business, did you like dive into learning stuff about entrepreneurship? Like, did you watch YouTube videos or read any books, or do you just go for it?
So I am very much so a go for it person. I think a lot of people think I probably research and like really think about it beforehand. And I do think about it, but I don't necessarily research. Tyler was very into Alex Hormozy and like building a business and the lead mindset. He bought me the books like to like read through and look at them. I think I opened one and like read the intro. Yeah. They're now in a stack in a closet.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think for me, the research part is hard because yes, there's a lot of people who I could learn from and not make the same mistakes, but I also don't want to build something that so closely aligns with what somebody else is doing either. Because what works for Alex Hormozy probably won't work for me in like the interior design world. Like they're two, I mean, he's a business owner, I get it, but they're just very different in my mind. So I think, yeah, trying to find the balance of what do I want and how do I translate that versus going to YouTube or going to the world and being like, what is everybody else doing? You know, it's that balance of not comparing yourself to everybody else, because that can also be, I mean, as they say, the thief of joy. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. And shout out to Tyler again, man. I feel like we'd be friends because I love Alex Hormozy. So that's
awesome. You two should talk.
Yeah, we definitely should. He'll be next. He'll be on here next.
Maybe Alex will see it, you know?
Yeah, maybe. Hopefully. Maybe you can send me out to his new acquisition.com play. You know what I'm saying? All right, yeah.
Small plug.
The chances of Alex Hormozy seeing this, I don't know. You never know. I hope the algorithm does me right on this one. So I think in the questionnaire that I had you fill out, you mentioned your YouTube channel, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So why don't you dive a little bit into that and what you've been doing on YouTube?
Yeah. So my goal with the YouTube channel, which again, I do have to give props to Tyler. He pushed me to YouTube because I didn't want my face all over the internet as much as like Instagram is fine, you know, but YouTube feels a little bit more like too real. It's like
Yeah.
TV, but here we are and we're doing it and I love it. It's super fun. But my main goals were to tell a story. So really storytelling is what is driving that force. It's important that we showcase the projects and showcase the heart of the client in it as well. Because everything in life is a story, it's just in how you spin it. And so if we can create positivity and share that and also educate people on the design process in that whole showing or viewing of a 10-minute YouTube video, that's a win for me. So really it's storytelling. It's ultimately educating people on interior design because I feel like it's a profession that a lot of people don't think about or don't really care about, which is okay. Just come talk to me.
You'll change their mind.
Yeah, exactly. So I've just always wanted to be able to educate people and tell a story. And so I think when those two things happen, it's a really beautiful mixture of someone feeling like they just felt a part of a project, but also learned, oh, maybe I shouldn't do, this paint color where I should go a little bit more into the soft blues instead of the deeper blues, or, again, whatever we're talking about, they can really take that and kind of apply it in their own homes.
Did you feel like there was any, so you said you didn't really like want to be on camera kind of thing. So what was it like from doing your first one to like each one that you did you feel a little bit less of that? Like I guess pressure?
Yeah. I mean, the camera was still absurdly close to my face, but not when you watch it back, which is funny. I think the first one I was definitely nervous and it just felt more of like a vlog. Like he was just there with the camera and he does, kudos to him. He does a very good job of kind of being in the background and catching things that I don't even realize he's catching. So that kind of really helps it feel more organic and more natural instead of like a TV crew following you around. And we only have one camera, so it's pretty low key. But yeah, over time getting more and more comfortable with that. And I like to say like the right thing a lot of the times, which isn't always the case. But so it's hard for me being on camera sometimes because I want to be polished and I want to have this really thoughtful word and use this big dictionary word, of something, the aesthetics of everything. And that's just not real life, So I think it's best for people to see me in my natural habitat, which is a little bit crazy. And just me, I'm not trying to hide anything. What you see is what you get. And hopefully you like it. Like if you don't, that's okay too.
Yeah. I feel like that's the best way to do it because you can replicate different people, but the only thing that you can't replicate is yourself, like,
yep.
That was a bad way of saying it, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. Like you are the only thing that can be niche. Do you know what I mean? No one else can be Molly Lucas. So just embracing that from the get-go.
Well, and trying to like
yourself.
trying to scale something. So it's really important that it's you and you're not just putting on a front or like the facade.
Yeah. Cause then when they meet you in person, they'd be
exactly.
like, whoa, this isn't who. Kind of like when you talked about making sure the design actually reflects that person's personality rather than someone else's.
Yep.
Same thing goes with just being a human.
Yeah. Just be yourself.
Yeah.
It'll get you far.
Yeah. Would you, do you travel for your work?
I do. I have a project right now in like State College.
Nice.
I also have 2 like luxury rentals, vacation rentals in Roatan, Honduras of all places.
Oh, cool.
So like that's very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so I have gone down there once just to see the project. And then this March, I should be going back to install. So we ordered all the furniture, got that on a container, again, all the logistics of like an international job, which are crazy. I mean, I can't even believe I'm saying that I had an really international job in my first year of business, but it's fantastic. That's the furthest one away, no big deal. But everything else is pretty, around Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh area.
How'd you get that international job? Was it like a connection already or?
Yeah, well, so it's the same client as a job that I have up north in my hometown of Titusville. So they have an event venue there that's a historic mansion. So it's like a 1906 Tudor mansion, 3 stories. It's stunning. And they're making that into like a wedding and event venue and like bed and breakfast. And so they have that property and brought me in on that first. And then once they kind of were a couple weeks in with me, they were like, oh, by the way, we have these 2 houses. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Awesome.
Thank you. And which is totally different because it's coastal, beachfront, more modern. So it's really fun to have the same client, but 2 completely different styles. So yeah, that's been fun to kind of understand that balance.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So you've been out there already once, did you say?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
How was it? Beautiful.
It's beautiful. I mean, I've never been in water so warm. Like, I mean, I hadn't been to the Caribbean prior. So, I mean, probably anyone who goes is like, oh yeah, Molly, it's beautiful. But, blue water, super clear. Obviously there's a ton of snorkeling. They actually have the second largest Great Barrier like reef. Like, so the first one is in Australia and this one is in Roatan. So a lot of people go to dive and like do excursions like that. I'm terrified of deep water, so I will not be doing that.
Yeah.
But I can snorkel and, you know, putt myself, you know, around. But
cool.
yeah, no, it's beautiful. And we got to like hold a sloth and the monkeys were
Hold
like
a
climbing
sloth?
Yeah. So they have like
That's
this.
pretty sweet.
It's like a sloth and monkey hangout, and you go and they like give you sunflower seeds and the monkeys just like crawl all over you, which is probably gross to a lot of people. And I am like, I am a little OCD and like I like things to be neat, but it was the best experience ever of having like a monkey just like sitting on my head.
That's super cool.
And then we got to like hug a sloth and you're just like sitting there like, oh, it's hugging me back. And they're like, no, they're not actually cuddly. It's just how they are. I'm like, no, she's hugging me.
Yeah. You find out I was actually trying to kill you.
Yeah, exactly. Slowly.
Yeah, exactly. That's wild. I never even knew that was a thing that you could like hug a sloth. That's really cool. I might have to go to Honduras.
I know. Hey,
hug a sloth.
Get some friends, run out the house, and have yourself a time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can rent the house when you're all done with it. So how have you gotten most of your leads thus far, or clients that you've acquired? And then we were just talking about YouTube. Mm-hmm. So this is a two-part question. Is that a big part of your strategy going forward? Is it like pushing social media?
I'll answer the first part first.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
I would say it's a loaded question.
So in terms of how I get clients, a lot of it is word of mouth. A lot of people have been, you know, I met them a couple months ago in a different situation and then they reach back out and say, hey, I didn't realize you were on your own. I'd love to work with you. Or a lot of it is industry relationships. So I have an AV company, Cozy Media Design, who we kind of partnered on a job. And then from there, we just really liked working with one another. And so they call me up and say, hey, we just got a new house. You know, we pitched you to the client. They want to meet you. And I try and do the same thing for them, obviously. And so a lot of that is just business to business relationships of people being in a slightly different field that still is integrated into interior design who are recommending me. I have a few contractors who I work with, same thing, where they have a client and they realize, oh, I can't just handle this on my own. I do need some design help, and they'll reach out to me as well. So it's really the industry partnerships and networking, which I love networking. I could talk all day long.
Yeah.
And so that for me is, I mean, I leave a networking event feeling so like invigorated because I'm so excited about everyone I met and all like the little business cards I have, you know, and all the follow-ups and the leads. And so that has helped a lot as a small business owner, is getting myself out there, going to networking events and just meeting people. YouTube and social media are something I really enjoy doing. I have not, to my knowledge, really gotten many clients from social media, but I still think it's a great way and a great platform for me to be able to share what I'm doing. So I'm going to keep doing that because I love peeling back those layers and having people peek behind the curtain and be able to see these things. And maybe someday it'll lead to clients. You know, you never know. That's part of the like growth, right? But for now, I think it just helps me seem a little bit more credible and a little bit more relatable to be able to watch a video of someone before hiring them. You don't normally get to do that. So yeah.
I think if you stick with YouTube and social media, you'll definitely start seeing some clients coming through there. And I would highly suggest, I would document everything you do when it comes to that Honduras project.
Yeah.
And that'd be super cool content.
Yeah, we have a few videos out, and then obviously we'll get a ton more footage when we go back for the install. But that one is a huge one, and it's I would love more like that because it's so unusual, and you just kind of can take it and run with it because it's a rental property.
Yeah.
So people are a little bit more willing to let you do whatever you want with it because it's a rental. It's not their personal property.
So I have a few more questions for you.
Yeah.
First one's kind of fun. Do you have like a specific style that's your favorite?
A specific style. I really love mid-century modern architecture, but I do lean probably a little bit more modern in terms of like furniture pieces and colors. I love pops of color. My favorite color is like a turquoise. It's like a deeper blue-green. And so for me, it's really having a layered kind of curated approach to it, to where I might have a really traditional lamp, but then the end table that it's sitting on is more modern. And maybe the way that like, you know, the angle or like the curves are they match one another or they like coordinate with one another, but you would never put those two things together if you weren't really thinking about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, mid-century modern for the sleek lines, the wood, like wood grain. I love walnut. I love seeing natural wood. But then also pops of color, because I feel like that just helps warm up a space. If it's all just neutrals, I feel like a lot of times I walk into a space and I'm just like wishing there was some inkling of color. It could be a blue or a green, that's basically a neutral in my book. But just something to kind of warm it up if you don't have, any color.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like we'd probably like your house because me and Amanda love mid-century modern, modern. So, but then if you came into our house, it's probably more like a mismatch of
Is it all white? No, I'm just kidding.
A lot of it is.
Well, and I think what people don't realize is you can have a neutral space, but you have to think about scale and you have to think about texture too. Mm-hmm. So, if you have a throw blanket, get a super chunky one so that like at least when your eye is scanning the room, it senses that depth. I think a lot of people are like, I don't know what to do with my space. It feels so stark. It's an operating room, and you walk in and you're like, well, if you had like chunkier pillows or like a weave on something, you don't have to be hot pink or, neon green. Mm. It just needs to have a little bit of texture and depth because that's what your eye picks up on. It's just like what your eye naturally gravitates towards. So at least mixing up textures, even if it's all creams and whites and maybe pops of black, that can be very sophisticated. I almost argue that that's harder to do than color in some ways because it's just trickier to get everything to like really layer nicely and have your eye associate it all together, but be able to pick out specific pieces.
Well, shout out to Amanda because I remember in our old house, she always had the like super furry pillows.
Yep.
And our house was basically just like white and gray.
Yep.
So shout out to you. You did a good job.
Yeah.
You didn't even know.
Probably didn't even know. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't even know. Now we're painting our new bathroom is going to be black.
Oh.
So we got so this is kind of a side note, funny story. So we went to a place in Newcastle.
Yeah.
They have a bunch of like cheaper, like it's like a bio place. Like they have 10,000 tubs and they have like a bunch of toilets. And
sounds like a gold mine.
Yeah, exactly. And Amanda found like this bougie smart toilet that ended up having a bidet in it. We didn't even know. So I asked the guy how much it was and he said $250. So we bought that and the vanity was $150. And then afterwards he was like, yeah, my boss is a little mad because that toilet's supposed to be $400. So I thought he was just like,
bidets themselves are expensive, like even separate from a toilet.
Yeah. So exactly.
Yeah. You got to steal.
I know. I thought he was just like puffing it up because I didn't know like, puffing it up. Yeah. Like I thought he was just like, oh yeah, you got a real good deal. Like just assuming he made up the part about his boss saying it was the wrong price, but turns out that toilet's $1,000 toilet.
Yeah.
It has like I didn't even know everything it had. It has a bidet, heated seat. So our house is like
all torn up, but you brought the toilet.
Yeah, we literally have the bidet like toilet sitting there. And I bought it from my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mike. He loves the bidet. But yeah, so
bidets are something that like make me so uncomfortable. Like I cannot talk about them in,
Amanda
in a
tried
lot
to
of
use
detail.
it one time and she didn't like it. So it'll be interesting. This is like our only like full bathroom. So hopefully she likes it. We have two toilets. Oh, we have a 2-year-old.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You think that's fun until they like find the button and then they're like pushing the button. It's just like, wee.
Yeah. And then when,
and
then when she's like 5 and goes to her friend's house and they don't have a bidet and she doesn't know what to do.
What the heck is this?
Yeah. Then we're going to sound like stuck up because she's going to be like, you guys don't have the water that shoots out of your toilet.
Yeah, exactly. The water fountain.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. Yeah. Wow. I got off topic.
That's
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bring it back. Bring it back.
I know the next one was kind of a deep question, so this is hard to come back into, but I'll ask anyway. So towards the end of all of my videos, I ask people if someone's just tuning in towards the end, or we gave them a bunch of information. If there's just one thing that they could do today to get 1% better, what would you recommend to that person?
It has nothing to do with interior design.
And that's perfectly fine. I'd say we've had answers from just like general productivity type things or things specific to the industry. So whatever, anything is good.
I always encourage people to step out of their comfort zone. And for some people, this might be it. And so I say, do something for someone else today and don't expect anything in return. Buy someone's groceries in front of you or behind you in line, hold the door open extra long for somebody who's a little bit further away, any small act of kindness. I was just in the grocery store yesterday and there was a huge line in Aldi and everybody looked like they were waiting for the self-checkout. And so me and my friend went up to like the cashier line because nobody was standing there. And there was some guy behind us who was like, oh, the line's right here. And we're like, we're literally not trying to skip all of you. We literally just thought you were all standing here for no reason in the self-checkout line. And so then we were just going to go back to the end of the line, and the lady behind him, she was like, it's fine. Like, go ahead. Like, he was standing here for self-checkout, you know? And I was like, that was very nice. Cause it was like a very awkward encounter that could have turned like really, you know, weird. And she was very nice. And like, I bought her groceries for her because I was like, you deserve for something good to come back to you, because you didn't have to handle that with so much grace, and you did. So that's just like a small example, but you know, do something for somebody else, because you never know what somebody else might be going through and the day they've had, or the week they've had, or the year they've had. So, 1% better. It's pretty easy to do something for somebody else.
Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, being a kind person, I feel like nowadays is such an underrated thing. So I love that you gave that as your 1% better.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. So Molly, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And if you've enjoyed listening to Molly, listen to Amanda's podcast, Low Key Not a Podcast, because she's about to film that one next. So thank you, Molly. And good luck going back to back in the podcast.
Yes.
That's a lot. So
Doing
kudos to you. Thank you again.
Thanks.
Wait, actually, before I wrap it up, where can people find you?
Oh, so Instagram is Maison de Molly, MAISON.DE.Molly. I also have a website, and the same is my YouTube handle. So
Perfect.
Yeah, Maison de Molly.
Go find Molly, give her a follow, and check out her content that's coming soon about Honduras. It's going to be sweet. Thank you,
Matt.
Molly. And thank you guys for watching. If you aren't subscribed, you should subscribe.